A woman is rarely going to look you in the eye and openly say, "I'm attracted to you. Come closer." Attraction almost never works that way. Instead, what usually happens is far more subtle. And if you don't understand the signals, you can miss them completely. Not because she wasn't interested, but because you didn't recognize the way she was communicating. What many men fail to realize is that attraction often appears long before it is spoken. The strongest clues are not found in her words. They appear in her body language, her movements, and especially in the way she uses her hands. When a woman feels drawn to someone, her body often reacts before her conscious mind has fully processed those feelings. Her energy shifts, her nervous system becomes more active, and that internal reaction begins to express itself physically. This is where many men get confused. They focus entirely on what she says, waiting for a clear verbal sign, while her body has already revealed what she feels. A woman can sit directly across from you, displaying multiple signs of attraction, yet you may walk away believing she was only being polite. The problem is not that women are difficult to understand. The problem is that most men were never taught how to read the patterns. Once you learn this language, things begin to look very different. You start noticing that certain behaviors appear repeatedly around specific people and in specific situations. These actions are not random, they are rooted in nonverbal communication, which researchers have long recognized as one of the most powerful forms of emotional expression. While people focus on words, the real conversation is often happening through gestures, posture, and subtle physical behaviors. In this video, we're going to explore those patterns step by step and uncover what they may reveal when a woman is genuinely attracted to you. The first signal many men notice, yet often misunderstand, is when a woman begins touching her hair. It has become such a commonly discussed sign that some men assume it always means attraction, while others dismiss it completely. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. Hair touching only becomes meaningful when you understand the circumstances surrounding it. Not every movement toward her hair is significant. Sometimes she is simply fixing it, moving it out of her face, or acting out of habit. What matters is when the behavior becomes frequent, repetitive, and closely connected to her interaction with you. That is when it starts to reveal something deeper. There is a psychological reason for this. When a woman experiences attraction, her body often responds with increased emotional stimulation. Chemicals associated with excitement and anticipation become more active, creating nervous energy that naturally seeks an outlet. One of the easiest places for that energy to go is through her hands. As a result, she may twirl a strand of hair around her finger, brush it aside repeatedly, or run her fingers through it more often than usual. The real clue is not the action itself, but the timing. Does she touch her hair while maintaining eye contact? Does it happen more when you are speaking? Does it appear repeatedly throughout the conversation? These details help separate ordinary grooming from genuine attraction. Another important difference is the nature of the movement. Practical grooming tends to be quick and purposeful. Attraction-driven behavior often lingers. The motion becomes slower, more absent-minded, and more repetitive, as though she is not fully aware she is doing it. You may also notice her moving her hair in a way that reveals her neck. This is important because the neck is one of the body's most vulnerable areas. When someone unconsciously exposes it, it often reflects a growing sense of comfort, trust, and openness. The signal is not really about the hair at all. It is about what her body is quietly beginning to communicate beneath the surface. Once you understand the meaning behind hair touching, the next signal becomes much easier to recognize, and in many ways it reveals even more. This is when a woman begins touching her neck or collarbone during an interaction. At this point, the attraction often moves beyond simple curiosity and starts reflecting a deeper emotional response. Unlike hair, the neck is not an area people constantly adjust without reason. It is one of the most vulnerable parts of the body, both physically and psychologically. Because of that, people naturally protect it. When a woman repeatedly draws attention to this area while talking with you, it can indicate that her guard is beginning to lower. You might notice her lightly tracing her fingers along the side of her neck, brushing her collarbone, or resting her hand there for a moment while maintaining conversation. The movement itself is not what matters most. The context is what gives it meaning. Does it happen while she is focused on you? Does it appear after a moment of strong eye contact or during a conversation that feels more personal? These details are important. What you are often seeing is a combination of attraction and vulnerability happening at the same time. She is experiencing an emotional reaction and her body is responding naturally. While we touching the neck can become a subtle way of releasing nervous energy while also signaling a growing sense of comfort. Many men mistake this for discomfort or anxiety, but there is a major difference between someone wanting to leave and someone being emotionally affected. Discomfort creates distance. Attraction often creates engagement. If she continues participating in the conversation, maintains eye contact, and remains relaxed while displaying these behaviors, her body is likely responding positively rather than pulling away. Music. You may also notice her tilting her head slightly, moving her hair aside, or holding a posture that keeps her neck visible. These small actions often occur unconsciously, reinforcing the same message. Her body is becoming more open, more relaxed, and more comfortable around you. And once that comfort starts building, the next signal becomes even more focused and difficult to ignore. As the interaction continues and attraction becomes stronger, the next signal often shifts attention toward one of the most expressive features on the face, the lips. This is one of the clearest signs of growing interest, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood because many men focus on the action itself rather than the situation in which it occurs. A woman may lightly touch her lips, press a finger against them, bite her lower lip, or slowly apply lip balm while talking with you. On their own, these actions may seem completely ordinary. However, when they appear repeatedly during moments of engagement, they can reveal something much deeper. There is a reason this behavior stands out. Human attention is naturally drawn toward facial features that are expressive and constantly moving. The lips play a major role in communication, emotion, and attraction. When a woman unconsciously brings attention to that area while interacting with you, she is often highlighting a feature that people instinctively notice. The key, once again, is context. If she quickly applies lip balm and immediately moves on, it likely means nothing. But if she does it slowly while maintaining eye contact, listening closely, or during a pause filled with tension and anticipation, the meaning changes. The behavior becomes connected to the interaction itself rather than simple habit. Timing matters as well. Does it happen when the conversation becomes more personal? Does it appear when the energy between you feels stronger? Does it repeat throughout the interaction? These patterns often reveal whether the action is random or emotionally driven. Another factor many men overlook is that touching the lips can also help manage internal excitement. Attraction often creates a mix of curiosity, anticipation, and nervous energy. Small movements around the lips become a natural outlet for those emotions. The mistake most men make is either ignoring the signal completely or reading far too much into it. The correct approach is simple observation. Recognize the pattern, remain present, and allow the interaction to develop naturally. Because as her attention becomes more focused on you, the signals often begin extending beyond her body and into the objects surrounding her. As the connection grows and her attention becomes more centered on you, another signal often appears that many men completely overlook. She begins fidgeting with objects she is wearing. It could be a necklace, a bracelet, a ring, or a pair of earrings. At first glance, it seems like a meaningless habit, but when it repeatedly appears during your interaction, it can reveal far more than most people realize. When a woman feels emotionally engaged, her body rarely remains completely still. Attraction creates excitement, curiosity, and nervous energy. That energy naturally looks for a physical outlet, and her hands often find it through nearby objects. As a result, she may begin spinning a ring, lightly tugging on a necklace, adjusting a bracelet, or touching an earring while continuing to focus on you. Psychologists often describe this type of behavior as a form of self-regulation. Rather than expressing every emotion outwardly, the body channels some of that energy into small repetitive movements. What makes the behavior meaningful is not the movement itself, but the fact that it appears while she remains fully engaged in the conversation. This is very different from boredom. Someone who is bored usually disconnects. They look around the room, check their phone, or mentally leave the interaction. Here she remains attentive, listens closely, and continues participating while her hands stay active. That distinction is important. The location of the object can also matter. A necklace resting near her collarbone or chest naturally draws attention to that area when she touches it. A ring or bracelet directs focus towards her hands and movements. These actions are rarely planned. They are often automatic responses to emotional stimulation. Most men miss these signals because they do not resemble obvious flirting. Yet that is precisely why they can be so revealing. Genuine attraction often appears through unconscious behaviors that are difficult to fake. And as her comfort level continues increasing, those indirect signals may gradually shift into something far more direct: physical contact with you. Up to this point, the signs we've discussed have been indirect. She has been channeling her emotions through gestures, body language, and objects around her. But when a woman moves from touching things around her to actually touching you, the dynamic changes completely. This is where attraction becomes much more intentional. A light touch on your arm during a conversation, a hand placed briefly on your shoulder, or fingers brushing against yours may seem small, but these moments carry significance. Physical contact is a social boundary, and crossing that boundary usually requires a decision, even when it happens subconsciously. She is choosing to create a connection rather than simply allowing the interaction to remain verbal. Of course, context still matters. An accidental touch in a crowded environment means very little. What matters is purposeful contact that occurs during a meaningful conversation, especially when it is paired with eye contact, laughter, or emotional engagement. In those moments, the touch becomes part of the communication itself. There is also a psychological component involved. Physical contact can strengthen feelings of trust, comfort, and closeness. In many cases, she is not only expressing interest, but also testing the connection between the two of you. She is seeing how the interaction feels when it moves beyond words. Many men make mistakes at this stage. Some freeze and pretend nothing happened. Others overanalyze the moment and become awkward. The better response is simple and natural. Stay engaged, music, maintain the flow of the conversation, and acknowledge the connection without forcing it. Another important detail is the quality of the touch. Does it disappear immediately or linger for a brief moment longer than necessary? Does it happen more than once? These small details often reveal whether the contact was casual or meaningful. And when those moments become repeated, it usually signals that the interaction is moving into a much deeper level of connection. As attraction continues to develop, there is one final signal that often ties everything together, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Many men see it and assume it means the exact opposite of what is actually happening. When a woman rests her chin on her hand, gently touches her cheek, or cradles part of her face while looking at you, some men immediately assume she is bored or losing interest. In reality, when this behavior appears alongside eye contact, attention, and engagement, it often signals the opposite. It shows comfort, focus, and emotional presence. This behavior is sometimes referred to as facial framing because it naturally draws attention toward her face, expressions, and eyes. Rather than pulling away from the interaction, she is settling into it. She is no longer overly concerned with monitoring every movement or carefully controlling how she appears. Instead, she feels relaxed enough to simply be present. The difference comes down to context. Music. If she is looking around the room, checking her phone, or mentally disengaging, the gesture may indeed indicate boredom. But if she is maintaining eye contact, responding thoughtfully, smiling, and remaining fully involved in the conversation, then what you are seeing is comfort. And comfort is often one of the strongest indicators of genuine interest. When you step back and look at the complete picture, a pattern begins to emerge. First came the hair touching, then the neck, the lips, the small movements with jewelry, the interaction with nearby objects, the adjustments to her appearance, and eventually physical contact with you. None of these signals required a direct confession of attraction. Instead, they appeared gradually through behavior. That is the key lesson. Attraction is rarely revealed through a single gesture. It shows itself through consistent patterns that appear together over time. The goal is not to obsess over every movement or assume one signal means everything. The goal is to observe, understand the context, and recognize when multiple signs consistently point in the same direction. And when you do recognize them, don't hesitate, overthink, or ignore what is happening. Stay present, respond naturally, and meet the energy being offered. Music. Because by the time these signals appear consistently, she's already begun moving closer. The only question left is whether you'll recognize the opportunity or let the moment pass by.